Well, I'm now joined by UKIP MEP for the North East of England, Jonathan Arnott, for more on this. Jonathan, evening to you. There's David Davis laughing at the blackmail reference, but is it a laughing matter? Is there truth in the idea, or actually, surely Britain does actually have to pay something towards this divorce bill?
Well, look, I mean, there is no legal requirement on the UK to pay a divorce bill to leave the European Union. The European Union is asking for a number of things which the UK may decide that it wishes to pay some of in return for something else, and it may well decide to tell the EU, sorry, not a penny. That is up to the UK to make that decision. What I think is the problem here, and where words like blackmail get bandied about, is that the European Union is effectively saying, if you don't pay us this huge sum of money and agree to pay us that sum of money unconditionally, then we won't even begin to negotiate with you about our future relationship and about our trade talks. And to me, that just isn't in the constructive spirit of negotiations.
What's ridiculous about all of this, we actually don't know the sum involved, do we? I mean, the EU hasn't actually presented us with an itemised bill, as it were.
No, what they've done is they've presented us with this four-page document which basically says, and this is how we want the bill to be calculated. So you can look at it and try to work out from what they've said what they mean and piece it together. But it seems somewhat extraordinary to me that if you're going to demand a large sum of money, you pretty much should say what it is and itemise every part of it. But it seems to me that the European Union is effectively flying a kite on this one. They're trying to get us to agree to something that seems to be quite horrific, and frankly, there are little bits and pieces where it is right to have discussions and negotiations. I mean, you can have discussions on whether the UK should morally, if not legally, have to look at do we pay a small percentage of the pension bill, for example. There are questions where you can have discussions, where you can have negotiations, but of course, whenever you give up anything, you have to expect something in return. And the European Union isn't asking us to give up a little bit and get something in return. They're asking us to give up a huge amount and get absolutely nothing in return, and then trying to make the UK seem unreasonable for not rolling over and accepting it. Well, we need to make a stand on this, because if you don't make a stand on this early in negotiations, what message does that send out for the rest of the negotiations?
Make a stand on this, Jonathan. You said earlier we shouldn't pay a penny. If actually the British government took your advice, they said we're not paying anything, what does that actually mean for negotiations? Does it actually mean they all collapse, and they're in deadlock at the moment anyway, seem to be going round and round in circles? Does that mean actually there is every danger that we just go without a deal? Is that what you want to see right now? The UK pull out with no deal whatsoever with the EU?
Do you know what? That isn't what I want to see. I don't want to see us end up with no deal. You know, in any divorce, and effectively that's what this is, you know, there will always be these rocky times where the two sides seem a very, very long way apart, and that's understandable. But ultimately, you need both to get round the negotiating table, and you want to.
Well, I spoke to one of your colleagues, Gerard Batten, a UKIP MEP. Gerard was saying, actually, we've got to face the facts. The EU simply doesn't want us to leave.
Well, they don't want us to leave, and I think that's what they're trying to do at the moment, and that's why they're coming up with these astronomical bills, and why they're putting us in a very difficult position and trying to make the UK feel bullied, feel intimidated, feel scared about what's going to happen next. And actually, the best way of responding to that is to effectively shrug your shoulders and say, well, look, if you're going to call our bluff on this one, why don't you realise that actually, if you end up with no deal, that isn't very good for the European Union either. That causes the EU a lot of problems on security, on intelligence, on research, on a number of different areas. And of course, it causes the EU problems on trade as well, because the UK is a massive net importer from the European Union. They sell us more than we sell to them. So in any tariff-based regime, if that's the direction they wanted to go down, they would be paying us more in tariffs than we'd be paying them. So it's not in the European Union's interest to go without a deal either. So we call their bluff now. And if we call their bluff now on that, then I'm sure that the European Union will take a very different approach later. But you've got to be firm.
Good to talk to you, Jonathan. Thank you very much indeed. Jonathan Arnott, live on RT UK. Thank you.